like those in other major cities around the world, with its buildings of concrete and steel and traffic that never seems to stop. But Sao Paulo's heritage of attracting immigrants from all over Asia and Europe has also meant that many ancient city sections retain their cultural traditions side by side with the corporate giants. And within the city, many parks add a pleasant getaway from the hustle and bustle of Sao Paulo life. However, Sao Paulo has an unpleasant reality that it hasn't been able to cope with. The poverty that leaves many people living in conditions that have become an all too familiar sight. These shanty towns, or favelas as they're known, are scattered throughout Sao Paulo, this one only 5 minutes away from the site of the Brazilian Grand Prix. His second Grand Prix. He'd been a proven Formula 3000 driver, scoring 10 successive wins to take the British Championship in 1983. Tolman recognised his talent, picked up on it, but could only keep Senna until 1985. That year, the often precocious Brazilian joined Lotus, where he took 7 pole positions and took his first Grand Prix in the rain in Portugal in 1986. Senna was on his way, and in 1988 he joined McLaren, a partnership that has seen him win world titles in 1988 and 90. Now, in 1991, there's no disputing that Ayrton Senna is the man to beat. After taking the first Grand Prix of the season in Phoenix, the pressure to win in Brazil, something he's never done before, was incredible.
It's always good to be home, but it's extra pressure, of course. I like very much to win here if I can. I've been near to do it many times in the past, but for a number of different reasons we weren't able to do it. So let's hope this weekend we can do something better.
Some of the local papers and magazines are talking about a rivalry between the Paulista and the Carioca, Carioca being Nelson Piquet. Do you feel this rivalry at all, especially when you're here in Brazil?
No, I really don't have anything like this in my mind at the moment. I am fully concentrated on my job, with my team, with my people and my racing car to get the best I can do. And then we see in the end, but that's not bothering me at all. It's not important.
Ayrton, it was your birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, belatedly. We had a bit of fun with the cake, and then a small accident happened. There's lots of stories going around. Could you tell us what happened?
Well, basically right in the middle of my pits, when we joke about the cake, I had an envelope in my hands with some passes, and in the middle of the confusion, it disappeared. It was very sad because, after all, I was in my garage, I am in my country, and to have something like this happening is very frustrating, annoying, but and there you go. Everything is under control now.
This is a circuit that you have partly helped redesign, or at least advised on. Do you think this gives you a home advantage, an unfair home advantage maybe?
No, I don't think so. The circuit is the same for everybody. We try to do a good racing circuit for everybody, and I think it's a safe circuit. Has improved a lot, facilities from last year to this year. And now, the best car, with the best combination, hopefully should do better.
Finally, are you going to win your first race in Brazil on Sunday here?
I don't know. I'll do my best, and let's wait and see.
Of course, here in Brazil, Senna is #1, but the 3 other Brazilian drivers were also under close scrutiny. Roberto Moreno spent 3 years just trying to pre-qualify in most Grand Prix. In 1987 with AGS, and then in 1989 with Coloni. But he finally got his chance with a competitive team by joining Benetton towards the end of last season. Quite a jump from one end of the pack to the other.
It's going to probably be the first time I ever raced in Brazil. After go-karts that I did in Brazil, I actually went to start my racing career in England in Formula Fords. So for the last 2 Grand Prix here, the past 2 years, I have not been able to qualify. So this weekend might be my first Grand Prix or my first car race in Brazil.
Looking forward to it then?
Indeed, yes.
Maurizio Gugelmin ran his first Grand Prix back in 1988, and now with 44 to his credit, he knows what it means to race in front of his home fans.
The Brazilians, they really crazy about the cars, and they very similar to the Italian people, the same temperament. And it's perhaps because we don't have many very fast cars on the road here, and the roads are not that good either for those cars. So when they see Formula One, it's like something from a different planet, and it's very good for them, I think, to have 4 Brazilians doing reasonably well.
But besides Senna, the most popular driver of them all is 3-time world champion Nelson Piquet, a man with a firm grasp of what it takes to race in his home Grand Prix.
Now, of course, everybody here want to autograph, everybody want to get a little bit close, everybody want to chant a word a little bit. I think this is normal. When I'm free, I talk with everybody, I do what they want. When I'm working, it's a little bit difficult.
Some of the papers here are talking about the rivalry between the Paulista and the Carioca. Do you feel that at all?
That's been a long time ago. It's not, I don't think in Formula One, but it's in another categories I have this problem all the time. In my time, I came here well, a long time ago, 17 years ago, and I won the Brazilian Championship and the Paulista Championship here in São Paulo. As a Brazilian, as a Carioca, you know, and for sure we had a lot of fight in the press.
But you're enjoying yourself here in this atmosphere. I mean, this is very special, isn't it? So different from racing in Europe for a Brazilian.
Oh, yeah, it's, people here always try to wait to get in the pits, always trying to wait to jump the fence. It's a little bit like Monza in Imola. You know, it's, we are quite similar.
The Brazilian Grand Prix. More to come on Inside Track right after the break. Thoughts went back to last season's Brazilian Grand Prix when Ayrton Senna appeared to be on his way to an easy victory. Right from the start, Senna powered into the lead from pole position that has become his almost permanent starting place. But not a good start for Andrea de Cesaris in a Dallara, who hits Jean Alesi's Tyrrell and goes off. The 2 McLarens led going into the first turn, followed by Thierry Boutsen in the Williams and Alain Prost in his Ferrari. But after the first few laps, Senna took an insurmountable lead and it looked like the race was his. Meanwhile, Boutsen took Berger for second place down the main straight. While Olivier Griard in the Fondmetal Osella went over Michele Alboretto's arrows and off. Prost chased after Berger for third place and eventually overtook him. Thierry Boutsen lost his brakes and couldn't stop when he came in for his pit stop. It could have been worse, but fortunately it wasn't. At the front of the pack, Senna went to lap Satoru Nakajima. But when the Tyrrell closed the door, Senna lost his nose gear. He had to pit for new bodywork, dropping him to third place. While Alain Prost jumped to first and stayed there to win the 1990 Brazilian Grand Prix. One year later, heavy rain clouds hung over the circuit for most of the race weekend. The on-again, off-again weather would be a major headache as teams tried to find the right setup. For Larousse and driver Eric Bernard, just being here to compete was a bonus following off-season problems with FISA. But a sixth-place finish by Aguri Suzuki in Phoenix, and the team had reason to be optimistic despite being underfunded and underpowered.
If you think at the old problem before the season, the result in Phoenix is very good. I'm very happy. It's maybe the first point I don't put on my life. I'm very happy for these points because I'm very happy for the team because everybody worked very hard and without money, with a lot of problems, and I think it's a completely logical point for us.
Tyrrell came into the Brazilian Grand Prix with 2 cars that had finished in the top 6 in Phoenix. Their Honda V10 was as quick and reliable as they thought it would be, while the rest of the car proved to be easy to handle, with little or no gearbox problems, a plague that had hit so many other teams.
Brazil's a much more open, wider, more flowing circuit. Presumably you're going to let them off the lead a bit here, are you?
Yes, that's right. It's really, we've got the horsepower for this type of circuit, so I would expect them to qualify better and to race better than we did in Phoenix.
Can we take it that's perhaps a plan for the year to sort of feed it in gently and just keep upping the revs as the season goes by?
It's not really a question of upping the revs, it's a question of the drivers having confidence in the car to be able to use the car at its best advantage, and also the engine. Really, I suppose our plan really is to beat the Benettons in Brazil, to beat the Williams in Imola. If we do that, we think we shall beat Berger, but we don't know what to do about Senna.
Ferrari had looked good in Phoenix and were now on a circuit that suited the car and the hard-charging style of Jean Alesi. The Ferrari V12 had plenty of power in the high rev range, and the semi-automatic gearbox was all but trouble-free. Good preparation and plenty of practice would seem to be the ingredients necessary for a Ferrari win yet again here in Brazil.
Alain Prost has won here 6 times. Ayrton Senna has never won here. I presume that you're hoping that that situation will continue.
Well, the statistical point is not really in favor. Also, Ferrari won the last 2 events of the Brazilian Grand Prix, in Rio with Nigel Mansell and here in São Paulo last year with Prost. We hope to have a good result, but this year is very important also to always pick up points at the end of the race. So of course we shall go for a win, but we shall not be too unhappy if it happens like in Phoenix, where we got good 6 points for the championship.
What about Jean Alesi on this track? Are you looking for him to show his style here now?
Jean Alesi did a fantastic job in Phoenix, where he was very calm and very quiet, and he did a very good race. He was second a few laps from the end when he had to slow down for mechanical problems that has nothing to do with him. So we are confident that he's starting with a good mind and a good system of working.
But in the world of Formula One, where even the slightest improvement can mean the difference between winning and finishing second, McLaren have somehow managed to consistently find the right combination to keep them top of the pack. And there's no doubting that one of the major reasons for McLaren's success is the massive power at the back of their chassis.
Lots of new engines have appeared though this year, and the Honda V12 does seem to be king of the heap at the moment, doesn't it?
It's going to be a lot better. It's pretty good now, but it's going to be a lot better. I think there's room for improvement, but it's all we need to do the job at the moment.
It must be very difficult when you are so clearly a leader in horsepower and setting the car up to keep on pushing yourself to improve.
Well, I think there's plenty of motivation throughout the team to succeed, and it's never easy to win. This year's no exception, but we'll give it our best shot.
Yeah, but you said confidence is a weakness, but I would have thought with the lead that Ayrton had in Phoenix that complacency might have been a better word for it.
Strangely enough, when you do find yourself that much in the lead of a race, there's all sorts of strange pressures that come on you. It's very difficult to drive slowly, and there was quite a bit of dialogue between Ayrton and myself that was primarily taking place to help him pace himself, and just because it looks easy, believe me, it doesn't mean it is easy, and that was a tough race for various reasons.
For 1991, the biggest challenge to McLaren domination could come from the Renault-powered Williams team. The team that Frank built has come a long way in a relatively short time. Frank Williams has been in Formula One since 1969 and now has a museum which documents his 22 years in Grand Prix racing. In the early 70s, Williams struggled to establish himself, but in 1977 secured finance from Saudi Arabia and teamed up with gifted designer Patrick Head to make some of the most successful cars ever seen in Formula One. Over the years, some of the best drivers in Grand Prix history have driven for Williams. Carlos Reutemann and Alan Jones were two of the most successful, with Jones winning the Drivers' World Championship in 1980 in a Williams. Reutemann spent 3 years with Williams, finishing third in the Drivers' Championship behind Jones in 1980, and then placing second overall the following season behind Nelson Piquet in a Brabham. Keke Rosberg then became world champion in a Williams in the Cosworth-powered FW08. It was an exciting time for Frank, with 2 drivers' titles and 2 constructors' championships in 3 years. In 1984, Williams was powered by a turbo Honda V6, the beginning of a very successful era for the Japanese engine manufacturer and for Frank Williams himself. Between the end of 1985 and the end of the 1987 season, they were the class of the field as Nigel Mansell won 13 races. Nelson Piquet 7 and Rosberg 2. Piquet took the driver's title in 1987. A couple of lean years have followed, but now, in 1991, Williams is set to challenge for the drivers' and constructors' titles once again.
Frank, you've been in Formula One for many, many years. What do you think your contribution has been so far to Formula One?
Probably stayed too long if others are allowed to speak on this subject. I never thought about the contribution. Mainly, I would say that Grand Prix racing has done a lot for me. It's given me enormous pleasure and satisfaction. There's nothing else I want to do. And I hope that continues, but I never thought about what I've done for it. It's really the other way around.
Frank, you've had your ups and downs in Formula One, of course. One of the most colourful periods was maybe when you associated with Saudi. Can you tell us a little bit about that period?
Well, you say colourful. I mean, it was purely a business speculation that we decided there's a lot of money available to sport in Saudi Arabia in the late 70s, early 80s. It required a lot of perseverance and patience. It was an interesting, not diversion away from normal business practice, but it's a different way of doing things down there, commercially speaking, and one had to follow those rules, and they, in fact, were fruitful and helped the Williams team succeed in its #1 goal, which, of course, is winning world championships.
You've also had an awful lot of drivers drive for you. Any fond memories, any highlights you'd like to share with us?
Well, I always think fondly of Alan Jones, not because he won a world championship, but he was a great guy to work with. The difficulty for drivers who followed him vis-a-vis this type of conversation is that I'm getting older. Maybe I belong to the museum too, but Alan was almost a contemporary, whereas Nigel was quite a bit younger than me. And whilst we have a lot in common, the racing is also much more professional than 10 years ago. Indeed, 5 years ago is already way out of date.
You're one of the big four, as everybody calls the top 4 teams in Formula One. You've also got a history of R&D and advanced research. Your active suspensions, of course, and now you're doing your semi-electronic gearbox. Is this something that you think is important in Formula One?
Well, basically, the spirit for all of this and the push for this comes from Patrick Head. He has always believed that the difference between one Grand Prix team and the next should be its R&D expertise and ability to make and try new things quickly, and therefore you've continually seen Patrick and his group developing items on the car that sometimes are a little different to other people's. Specifically today you're talking about push-button gear change. We're not the first to do it. It's a major R&D exercise. We believe in it, and I'm sure Patrick will succeed in it too.
Well, the problem we have with anything new, and the gearbox is obviously new for Williams, is the learning process and how long it takes to get up to speed, and we have had a few problems with it. But, you know, I believe very strongly in Patrick Head and the Williams team, and I know that it will come on stream very, very quickly, and I hope that on Sunday we can prove that by finishing here in the points.
When you had to withdraw at Phoenix, did you ever get a niggling feeling you were dogged by bad luck with these gearboxes?
No, that's not bad luck. You see, dead certs are not bad luck. We knew we had a problem before we went in the race. Mechanical reliability is not down to luck. It's down to great engineering. And unless you have very good engineering, you're always going to break down, because that's the essence of Formula One. It pushes everything to the extremes. And you just got to have everything correct. And if you don't, then you don't finish the race. And as demonstrated in Phoenix, there was only 6 cars that finished. So there's 20 cars that didn't finish. And that's not bad luck, that's just bad engineering.
I have to say that definitely I feel myself more competitive now than when I was at the beginning of my career, because I got more maturity. And I know better how to race, when I have to attack, when I have to defend, and also politically, having some experience behind is much easier to work in Formula One.
Is this going to be the year that you're going to win your championship?
Norman, this is totally unpredictable. We're not off to a good start. I've got no way of telling you. We hope. There's some very good equipment in this garage. Unfortunately, there's equally very good equipment in other garages. What it does mean, however, is that this championship should be terrific, and that's good for business.
Interlagos. We'll look behind the scenes at some of the people and facilities at this circuit. But before we do, a little trivia question. Who's the heaviest driver in Formula One? Nigel Mansell, 80 kilos or 176 pounds. Formula One events, and the Brazilian Grand Prix is no exception. Proper facilities and the diligent application of emergency rescue techniques means that the drivers can be sure of prompt and competent attention should an emergency arise. Professor Sid Watkins is the Chief Medical Officer for FISA, and here presides over the practice session of an emergency driver extraction. With him, the race medical director, Dr. Renato Duprat. At Interlagos, the medical centre has first-class facilities, including 2 helicopters for immediate evacuation. There are 10 ambulances and 10 medical tents along